I'm going to show you one of my favorite archery tools that I kept in my archery toolbox arsenal. This simple tool here, this peanut, was enough to keep off archery injury that allowed me to continue to compete at a world-class level for years on end. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to use this peanut here to put ribs back in place that are subluxated. In archery, one of the #1 injuries in the sport is a subluxated rib. I say that with quotation marks only because, in my opinion, it's not actually an injury. Not to take away from the experience of others who have had ribs that have been out of place. It's not exactly fun, and in fact, it can be quite excruciating at times. It hurts to breathe, it hurts to laugh, it's awful to cough, good luck sneezing, and also it's very difficult to shoot archery because we actually ask quite a considerable amount when it comes to our rib cage. Archery is a pretty rough sport on the body, especially the rib cage. It's single-sided, static, rotational, and repetitive. Basically, just about all the worst things you can imagine, with the exception of maybe impact, because it definitely doesn't have any of that. So this tool here is what is referred to as a peanut. It is 2 lacrosse balls, 2 very, very dense, hard rubber balls that are taped together in the shape of a peanut, basically. You can get lacrosse balls at just about any sporting goods store. If you don't have any sporting goods stores nearby, I'll put links in the description below for lacrosse balls. There are purpose-built peanuts out there on the market, but they're generally speaking pretty soft and have a lot of give to them. And I find that you just don't get nearly as much relief from ribs being out of place or have the ability to actually put them back in place that you do with a regular peanut made out of lacrosse balls. They're very, very firm, like I said. It's not exactly pleasant to use. The softer versions definitely feel much better in regards to the level of pain that you feel when you lay on them. But I'm telling you, this was absolutely vital in being able to shoot archery all the time. Took this tool with me on the road everywhere I went because I had ribs that were dropping out of place constantly. Now that's why I originally said quote-unquote injury. It's an injury in the sport of archery because it's not like tendinitis where that's more of an overuse injury that definitely requires genuine rest for long periods of time in order for it to go away, or some sort of tear or something to that nature. A rib being out of place can be put back in place within minutes if you know how to do it correctly and if you catch it very, very soon. I do cover a lot of this information that I'm giving in this video, in this manual here. It's called Training for Archery. It's a book my wife and I wrote. Basically, this book gives you all sorts of different things, including self-care. That's what this video is about, that I used almost daily. I'll have links in the description below where you can grab Training for Archery and also a link at the top up there, a card at the top, to my website, Kaminski.com, where you can grab a copy. So I did mention that if you use the peanut soon enough, you'll be able to put the rib back in place very easily and it will stay there. The reason being is that muscles in general will be the culprit that is pulling and causing the rib to drop out of place. You'll either have ribs that are no longer evenly spaced and have some that are touching like this, or potentially, if you're looking at the side, one elevated or depressed compared to another. All of those are very, very painful. As you breathe, you're using the intercostals, the muscles between the ribs, to expand and contract the rib cage. They also do a little bit of rotation in addition to that and stretch and contract as we're drawing back our bow and doing different movements in archery. So as you can see, not only does it hurt to breathe, it hurts to move and shoot and do all sorts of different things. And good luck if you ever have a sneeze that comes on from having a rib out of place. A sneeze can actually even cause a rib to drop out of place too. I've had that happen many, many times because my muscles were so tight and contracted and really tugging on the ribs and making them be in positions that they didn't really want to be in. So if I caught this soon enough, when I would roll on this peanut, it would allow the ribs structurally to drop back into place. But if I waited any more than a couple of hours or a day or two, or even worse, a week, that rib would be a bear to get back in place because the muscles that pulled it out of place have been contracted for so long that as it drops in, it wants to come right back out. So I really had to be on top of self-care when I was having issues with my ribs. In my experience, chiropractors can absolutely put ribs back in place, but it takes time to schedule appointments. Again, allowing that rib to stay out of place for much longer. And not many chiropractors do enough soft tissue work, in my opinion, to allow the structural change that they did, the adjustment, to remain permanent. You need soft tissue work. You need to take care of the muscles, because if you're not maintaining those muscles that are acting upon the structure of the bones, they're going to go back out of place. I hope that makes sense. Sorry about the rambling. I feel like it's really important to give the background information to understand the why behind things, because then it makes a whole lot more sense as to why you would want to even roll on this thing. Enough talking, let's get into how to actually use this peanut to put a rib back in place. I actually have a rib out of place right now. It's somewhere in my chest. It started yesterday when I was rucking as exercising, and it actually hurts a considerable amount to breathe, and when I'm laughing, it's quite painful. It starts right about here and radiates this direction, and even though I have a rib that is presenting with pain in the front, rolling on the peanut on my back is really the way to put it back in place. So what I do is I lay down on top of this peanut, and I put the spine in the middle and have the 2 lacrosse balls, one on each side of the spine. So the recess here where the divot is in this peanut is a bit of a recess for the bony processes of the actual spine itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay down on top of the peanut, putting it at the very top of my back where my neck meets my back. So I just lift up and put it right at the base of my neck where it meets my back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this direction on the peanut itself until I find a spot that is really, really, really painful. The most painful spot I can find, right about there. You'll know when you hit the spot because it really hurts. Unfortunately, keeping my head neutral here, just relaxing as best as I can into it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach one hand overhead and one hand down, and I'm going to stretch and reach opposing forces. So this hand goes up, this hand goes down. And then I'm going to breathe deep into my rib cage as best I can and relax into it as I release. And already what I just felt and heard was a very micro crack or clunk. And I know that that rib actually already dropped back in place. Now I'm going to do this other side to keep things even. And because I rolled on this peanut yesterday, my ribs are already moving decently. But the next move would be to hug myself. Again, just kind of relaxing as most as I can. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to rock slightly one direction or the other and maintain a little bit of pressure on that same side as I'm rocking as far as I can and tolerate it, and then breathe into my chest again. Whew. As I was breathing out, another one moved. Now I'm going to go back to this left side and rotate this way. Do the same thing. And now, just from those two simple moves, I have basically no discomfort laying on this spot anymore. And I'm going to roll up more until I find another spot that may be painful. Sometimes I will find another spot, and sometimes I won't. Right there. And do the same move again. Rotate again to one side and breathe. And the other side. And if I have a really, really stubborn rib that won't go back into place, I'll actually tilt and turn my rib cage one direction versus the other, like so. Breathe. And the other way. I always do it evenly because you never know what you're going to find. Now, once I reach the bottom of my rib cage, if there's no more painful spots, which there isn't, I could roll back down this direction, but my shirt always gets tangled in it, and I start over again at the top and go through another round just to make sure there's no more spots that are really, really bad. And you'll see I'm keeping my chin tucked as much as I can comfortably. You'll see that my hips are on the ground, but I can bridge a little bit if I want to increase the pressure if I've got a really, really stubborn rib, but I'm feeling pretty good today. Oh, there's another spot right there. Oh, I'm feeling pretty good. And when I sit up, I try to do that as evenly as possible, trying not to twist or turn or do any sort of crazy loading on the rib cage itself. I'm going to reposition the camera so I can stand back up and describe to you a little bit more in detail as to what I was feeling there. All right, so I feel a lot better. My ribs are moving now. I can actually breathe in a little bit deeper with a whole lot less pain in the rib here in my chest. I feel no limitations as far as range of motion or anything like that. Everything feels way, way better. So anytime I feel like I have a rib out of place, anytime it hurts to breathe, anytime that I notice it's just not quite feeling right in the rib cage, and sometimes when I'm just looking to make sure I'm maintaining my body, I would roll on this peanut. Depending on how bad the rib was, or rather the muscles were that were pulling that rib out of place, I might have to roll on the peanut a couple of times a day. Like I said, at any time I felt like a rib was out of place at all, immediately I'll go grab this peanut and roll on it until it goes back in place, or at least I get some sort of relief. Even if it drops back out of place within 15 to 20 minutes, because sometimes that happens, I'll bring this thing back out and just keep doing it until it stays in the place that I want it. You'll know if you try to do this when a rib goes back in place, because like I said, that first move that I did when I was in this position in that first spot, I heard a click almost, like a Rice Krispie treat popping, like that kind of level of some sort of adjustment. And then the second one, when I was hugging myself, rotating that first direction to the right, as I was relaxing and breathing out, I made a noise because I really felt an adjustment internally, and sometimes it can not be very, very pleasant. Although with a couple of dollars, even though it's painful and I inflicted it upon myself, I'm better than I was just a few moments ago because I no longer have a rib out of place. It's absolutely worth it. It's not exactly fun, but self-care and taking care of one's body is not exactly the most comfortable thing in the world. Exercise is difficult. Getting in an ice bath is difficult. Taking a cold shower is difficult. Rolling on a peanut's difficult. But it all adds up when you're trying to keep your body healthy for archery. Hey, if you like this video, consider sharing it. Genuinely, it helps this channel out. I don't operate any social media. I've eliminated all social media from my life except producing YouTube content. So I rely on you, my viewers, to help get the word out there about this channel. And this type of content helps others out there because I've spent countless hours and had countless ribs drop out of place. And for me to share this type of information takes nothing more than a little bit of my time. I'm very, very happy to produce all this content for free for archers around the world to enjoy, so please consider supporting this channel. There's many different links in the description below, and I can't thank my supporters enough.